The night shift at St. David's Trauma Center was supposed to be routine. Dim fluorescent lights hummed overhead, the scent of antiseptic and latex lingering like a stubborn shadow. Nurses padded along the hallways, charts in hand, quiet conversations punctuated by the soft beeping of monitors. But at 2:14 a.m., routine ended. The automatic doors slammed open with a violent gust of wind, nearly knocking over a wheelchair. Paramedics rushed in, shouting numbers and vitals into radios, their faces taut with urgency. On the stretcher lay a man who looked like he had walked straight out of a war zone. Dark, coagulated blood coated his shredded clothes, pooling in patches across the floor like a grotesque painting. Emily Hayes, a rookie nurse barely 3 months out of nursing school, froze at the sight. Her heart skipped. Her brain screamed to process what she was seeing, but instinct overrode logic. 20 bullet wounds. That was not a number one could survive, let alone remain semi-conscious with. Holes through the chest, shoulders, abdomen, legs, a map of carnage. The smell of burned gunpowder, coppery blood, and fear hit her like a physical blow. "He's DOA," muttered one paramedic, his voice flat, defeated. "We're just delivering the body." Emily's pulse surged. "No," she snapped, her voice cracking but firm. "He's alive, he's breathing. Move him to trauma stat." The trauma team reacted instantly, dragging the stretcher down the hallway, past the ICU entrance, to the emergency operating room. Emily followed, her scrub stained with a combination of sweat and her own adrenaline. Her fingers itched to work, to save, to do something, anything. As the team stripped away the soaked clothing, revealing pale, battered flesh, someone gasped. A tattoo, barely visible beneath a pool of blood, emerged, a gold trident piercing a skull. Emily recognized it immediately, not from personal experience but from whispered stories in the hospital. That symbol belonged to the Navy SEALs. Her hands shook as she prepped the patient. Her mind raced. 20 gunshot wounds. They should have killed him. Who is this man? But there was no time for questions, only action. The attending surgeon, a grizzled man with lines carved deep into his forehead and a reputation for blunt honesty, stepped forward. "Hayes, step back. You're green. This is beyond your scope." Emily didn't flinch. "I'm not stepping back. He's alive, and if we wait, he won't be. Tell me what to do, and I'll do it." The surgeon's eyes narrowed, weighing her against the chaos. Finally, with a tight nod, he stepped aside. Emily gritted her teeth and focused. 3 of the worst wounds were on his torso. She pressed down on them simultaneously, hands slick with blood, her palms hot with adrenaline and fear. Each pulse beneath her fingers was weak, uneven, a fragile rhythm barely holding on. She whispered into his ear, instinct taking over like a mantra. "Stay with us, you're not leaving us. Not tonight, fight." Minutes passed like hours. The team worked with mechanical precision, clamps, sutures, transfusions. Machines beeped warnings and the man's vitals dipped dangerously. His heart stopped twice. Twice, they shocked him back. Twice, Emily refused to let his body succumb. And then his hand twitched. Once, barely perceptible, but it was enough to ignite hope in the room. "He's alive," she said softly, more to herself than anyone else. The surgeon exhaled sharply, adjusting the IV lines. "Miracle or stubbornness? Don't care, just keep him alive." Emily leaned closer. The man's eyelids fluttered. His breathing was ragged, each inhale a battle. He rasped a whisper that pierced her soul. "Don't let me die, not yet." Her chest tightened, tears pricking her eyes. She pressed harder, refusing to acknowledge the fear curling in the pit of her stomach. "Not while I'm here. Not tonight." Hours blurred. Emily alternated between compressions, controlling hemorrhage, monitoring vitals, and coordinating the team with unexpected authority. Every movement was critical. Every second counted. Each tiny success, a stable heart rate, a clear airway, felt like a personal victory. And still the mystery remained. Who was this man? Why was he targeted with such precision and violence? At one point, she noticed a small device clutched in his hand, partially hidden beneath his bloodied fingers, a metallic cylinder engraved with numbers she didn't recognize. She reached to take it, but the surgeon stopped her. "Leave it. Nothing we don't understand yet should be disturbed." Emily exhaled, letting the tension in her body ease only slightly. She glanced at his face, pale but alive, and realized she had never seen anything like this before. He was a puzzle, a miracle, and possibly a weapon in human form. The trauma room became a theater of urgency. Nurses moved with silent precision, medics passed instruments with unspoken understanding, and Emily guided them, her rookie status forgotten. The man's vitals slowly stabilized, and finally, after 6 relentless hours, the team could step back. The surgeon leaned against the wall, wiping sweat from his brow. "I don't know how you did it, Hayes, but you saved him." Emily's hands shook as she stepped away from the operating table, her mind still racing. She couldn't stop looking at him. He should have been dead. He should have been. And yet, against all odds, he lived. As she stared, a shadow fell across the room. She turned to see a figure standing in the doorway, tall, imposing, perfectly still. Not a nurse, not a doctor, someone else entirely, someone watching. Emily's stomach tightened. The air seemed heavier, charged with electricity. And then she heard it, a soft click like a camera shutter. Her heart lurched. Someone was documenting this. Someone had known about him before he even arrived at the hospital. Before she could react, the figure was gone. The room returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after what had just happened. Machines beeped steadily. Bloodied floors gleamed under fluorescent lights. And the man, still unconscious, still clinging to life, lay on the table breathing. Emily sat down heavily, pressing her palms to her face. The weight of what she had just witnessed, what she had just done, settled over her like a storm. I just saved a Navy SEAL from 20 bullets, and someone powerful is already watching. A cold chill ran down her spine. Something told her that the night was far from over, that this miracle was only the beginning, and that her life, and the life of this man, was about to become something entirely unrecognizable. She glanced once more at the body before her. "Stay with us," she whispered. "I promise I won't let you go." And with that the lights flickered, just once. A warning or a promise, she didn't know which. But she knew one thing, her life had changed forever. The trauma room felt impossibly quiet compared to the chaos of the previous hours. Monitors beeped in a steady rhythm, IV drips hissed gently, and the smell of antiseptic lingered like a faint ghost. Emily Hayes sank into a chair, exhausted, sweat-soaked and trembling, but her mind refused to rest. She couldn't stop staring at him, the man who should have been dead. Lieutenant Commander Mason Cole. She didn't know his name yet, but she had already seen enough to know he was no ordinary man. His body was a map of violence and survival, 20 bullet wounds crisscrossing his torso like a sinister constellation. Each wound told a story she could not imagine. Each scar she would later clean and stitch carried the echo of gunfire, blood, and desperation. The attending surgeon, Dr. Brandt, a man with scars etched into his hands and face from years of battlefield medicine, finally broke the silence. "You did well, Hayes," he said, his voice low but firm. "I don't usually hand out compliments to rookies." Emily exhaled shakily, her adrenaline still thrumming like a live wire. "He's not out of danger," she said. "He's still unstable. We need to monitor him every second." Dr. Brandt nodded. "I know, but you saved him, and trust me, not many people could have done what you just did." She shook her head, still staring at him. Her hands itched to touch his arm, check his pulse, make sure the man was still fighting for life. Somehow, she already felt a connection to this stranger whose life had been shattered before he even entered the hospital. And then he moved, just slightly but enough. His fingers twitched against the sheet. His eyes fluttered open, revealing a storm of gray, clouded, haunted, but alive. Emily leaned closer. "Hey, you're okay. You're safe here," she whispered. He groaned, low and raspy, words barely audible. Don't let me die, not yet. Her chest tightened. It wasn't a plea. It was a command. He had survived impossible odds, and now he demanded to live. Emily swallowed hard and pressed her hand over his trembling fingers. "I'm not letting you go anywhere," she said softly. The moment was interrupted by a sudden flurry of movement. A nurse rushed in, alarmed. "Vital signs are dropping. We've got tachycardia, hypotension. He's crashing again." Emily's mind snapped into action. Her hands moved almost automatically, following the rhythm of the trauma drills ingrained in her by months of intensive training. She assisted the surgeon with intubation, pushed fluids, and monitored oxygen saturation. Each beep of the monitor was like a drumbeat in a war song. Minutes stretched into eternity. Mason's body convulsed, wrenched by pain, adrenaline, and shock. Emily pressed on multiple wounds, applied hemostatic gauze, and coordinated with the team. "Charge defibrillator," Dr. Brandt barked. Emily's voice joined his, steady but urgent. "Clear, charge, clear." The shock hit. Mason's body arched, then settled. The monitor beeped back to life. He survived again. Emily felt a tremor of relief ripple through her. But even as the surge of adrenaline ebbed, a deep unease settled in her stomach. 20 bullet wounds, survival against impossible odds, and a tattoo she recognized as the Navy SEAL emblem. This was no ordinary patient. This was someone the world considered untouchable or expendable. She glanced at the small metallic cylinder clutched in his hand, partially hidden beneath bloodied fingers. She had wanted to take it before, but Dr. Brandt had stopped her. Now, curiosity gnawed at her. What was it? And why was someone willing to kill this man so violently? A soft knock at the trauma room door made her jump. A tall man in a dark suit slipped inside without waiting to be invited. His presence was commanding yet strangely calm, a sharp contrast to the chaos surrounding Mason. "Your nurse Emily Hayes?" he asked, voice even, almost metallic. "Yes," she said cautiously. "Who are you?" He paused, scanning the room. "I'm here on behalf of higher authorities. You saved him." Emily blinked. "He's critical. He's my patient. You can't just—" The man raised a hand. "We're not here to harm you, but your involvement has implications." Her heart raced. "Implications? I just did my job." He nodded, almost as if that were obvious. "Precisely. And now you are connected to a very dangerous situation." Emily's throat went dry. "Dangerous how?" Before he could answer, Mason groaned again. His eyes flickered open, momentarily alert. Emily leaned over, brushing hair from his sweat-soaked forehead. "Mason," she whispered, "you're safe. We've stabilized you." He coughed violently, blood staining the sheets. "Emily, stay close," he rasped. His voice was weak, but the intensity was undeniable. They know I'm here." Emily froze. "Who?" The man in the suit stiffened. "Someone who shouldn't exist, someone who shouldn't be able to reach him." Mason's breathing grew rapid, shallow. Emily's pulse mirrored his panic. "It's okay, Mason, I've got you. You're not going anywhere." He coughed again. "No, you don't understand. It's bigger than anyone knows." Emily glanced at the agent. He didn't answer immediately, just tightened his jaw, eyes darkening. The room's air thickened with tension. Emily had saved his life, but now it seemed her actions had placed both of them on a collision course with something larger, darker, and more powerful than she could imagine. The minutes crawled by as Mason's vitals slowly stabilized. The surgeon and team monitored him closely, but Emily's attention never wavered. Every twitch of muscle, every shallow breath, every flutter of eyelid sent her heart into her throat. She realized she wasn't just caring for a patient. She was guarding a man who carried secrets powerful enough to make people kill without hesitation. Her hand smoothed the damp hair from his temple. "I'm not leaving you," she said again, and for the first time, Mason's lips twitched in what might have been a weak, ghostly smile. The agent cleared his throat. Emily looked up. He studied Mason then her and finally spoke, voice low but urgent. "Miss Hayes, you need to understand something. This man, he's not just a patient. He's part of operations that, if exposed, could bring down people at the highest levels. And now, you've seen too much." Emily's stomach dropped. Too much. I just saved his life. The agent's eyes were unyielding. "Yes. And for that, you are now a part of something far bigger than any hospital, any protocol, any night shift you've ever known. And if you don't act carefully, you could be in danger too." Emily felt the weight of his words like a hand pressing into her chest. 20 bullets, survival against impossible odds. And now, she was caught in the storm surrounding him. Mason stirred again, coughing, whispering something Emily couldn't quite hear. She leaned closer. His eyes met hers, gray and stormy. "Don't leave me, not yet," he said. And at that moment, Emily understood. Saving him was only the beginning. The real danger had yet to arrive. She took a deep breath, fingers trembling as she adjusted his IV. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. The agent stepped back, exhaling slowly. "Good, you'll need courage, and you'll need to trust the people you've never met before." Before Emily could ask what he meant, a faint hum began in the hallway outside. The lights flickered. Machines beeped unexpectedly. A shadow crossed the frosted glass window of the trauma room door. Emily's pulse quickened. She had saved Mason Cole, a man who should have been dead, but someone was coming for him, and maybe for her too. The hum grew louder, like a heartbeat, or the engine of a predator closing in. Emily tightened her grip on Mason's hand. "Stay with me," she whispered. And outside the door, footsteps echoed, heavy, purposeful, coming closer. A storm was about to break. The early morning sun hadn't yet broken through the horizon when Emily Hayes returned to the ICU. Her uniform was still damp from the night's adrenaline, sweat, and tears, but sleep had evaded her entirely. She needed to see Mason Cole. She needed to ensure that the man who should have died 20 times was still alive. When she approached his bed, the chart caught her attention immediately. Something was wrong. Where John Doe had been written, a series of bold, black letters now screamed. "Classified federal hold." Beneath it in smaller print, "No unauthorized access. No VISITORS. Do not disclose condition." Emily froze. She had followed hospital protocol meticulously, but her name wasn't on the authorized list. Her stomach churned. Someone with immense authority had marked Mason Cole off limits, and she, a rookie nurse, had just saved him. A chill ran down her spine. Before she could process it further, a tall man in a dark suit appeared at the foot of the bed. He moved with that terrifying calm of someone trained to command a room without speaking a word. No badge, no visible identification, only a penetrating stare. "Your nurse, Emily Hayes." His voice was steady, controlled, but carried an edge that made her skin prickle. "Yes," she answered cautiously, stepping back slightly. "I'm his nurse. He's stable now, but—" The man held up a hand. "Your involvement is over." Emily's stomach twisted. "Over? What do you mean, over? I've been caring for him all night." He did not answer immediately. His eyes scanned Mason, still, bloodied face, as if assessing his life by a single glance. Emily noticed the faint tremor of his hand as he reached for a nearby phone. "We need to lock this floor immediately," he said into the device. "Code secure, now." Emily's pulse quickened. "Lock why? Who is coming?" The man didn't meet her eyes. "Someone we didn't expect." Before she could ask more, Mason stirred, coughing weakly, struggling to lift his head. His gray eyes met hers, raw and haunted. "Emily," he whispered, "they know I'm here." Her breath caught in her throat. Who knows?" He coughed again, blood streaking the pillow. "Too many, too powerful." His voice was weak, fragmented by pain and trauma, but Emily sensed the urgency. Suddenly, the ICU door slid open, and 8 men in tactical gear entered silently. Emily's heart lurched. They didn't speak. They didn't hesitate. They moved with a precision she had never seen outside military drills, a seamless choreography of lethal efficiency. "SEALs," she whispered under her breath, recognizing the insignia on the tactical patches. One of them, older, scarred, eyes cold and sharp as broken glass, stepped forward. He studied Emily for a long, measured moment. "You're the nurse who saved him." His voice was calm but carried the weight of authority. Emily nodded. "Yes, I didn't know." "Don't," he interrupted, raising a hand. "Just stay behind us. No sudden movements, don't touch anything." Her heart pounded. Mason Cole, her patient, the man she had saved against impossible odds, was not just a patient. He was a legend. Whispers of his name had circulated in military circles for months. Mason Cole had survived missions that were considered suicidal, vanishing from radar for half a year. He had been presumed dead more than once. And now he lay in front of her, bleeding, beaten, and alive. One SEAL stepped closer to Mason, scanning for injuries, hidden dangers. Another checked the room perimeter with the skill of someone born to defend life at any cost. Emily felt a hand on her shoulder. She flinched slightly. The older SEAL leaned in. "You saved him. That was brave. That was remarkable. But know this, you've just stepped into a world you don't understand, and it's about to get very dangerous." Emily's mind spun. "I don't understand. Why are they here? What's happening?" The SEAL exchanged a glance with another, older man, the unspoken tension hanging in the air like a storm cloud. "Mason's presence here," the commander finally said, voice low, "has triggered every security protocol possible. Not just military, not just local law enforcement. Someone wants him dead, and they want anyone who touched him dead too." Emily's throat went dry. Anyone who touched him. The commander's jaw tightened. "Including you. You were at the front lines. You held him together when he should have been dead. And now, because of that, you're involved." Her hands shook. "Involved? I'm a nurse, I'm not." "Not anymore," the SEAL interrupted. "Your life just became part of something bigger than any of us can explain." Emily swallowed hard. Her gaze flicked to Mason. Despite his pallor and exhaustion, the fire in his eyes was unmistakable. He was alert in ways that went beyond the physical. His mind was still calculating, still aware. He coughed violently, groaning, and Emily rushed to dab at the blood trickling from his lips. "Mason," she whispered, "you're safe now, you're alive." He tried to speak, rasping, but his voice was barely audible. "Emily, don't leave me, not yet." The words hit her harder than any blow could. He wasn't begging. He was commanding. Surviving was not an option for him. It was a mission. And she realized with a shiver that she had just become part of it. Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered violently. Emily glanced around, her pulse spiking. Monitors beeped irregularly. Machines briefly went silent. Even the SEALs paused, scanning the room with heightened awareness. A soft hum vibrated through the walls, faint at first, then growing, like electricity or a heartbeat. The older SEAL commander gestured sharply. "Secure the perimeter, now." Emily felt panic rise, but she forced herself to breathe. She had stabilized Mason. She had watched him survive against impossible odds, but now she felt the walls of the hospital close in. Danger was coming. Not abstract danger, not distant. Immediate, precise, calculated danger. From the corner of her eye, she noticed the shadow first. Movement, subtle, silent. A figure appeared at the frosted glass door of the ICU. No badge, no identification, just presence, control, threat. Emily's stomach churned. "Who is that?" she whispered. The SEAL commander didn't answer immediately. He raised a hand to signal the team. "Stay calm, stay behind us, observe, we'll handle it." Emily clenched her fists, trying to steady herself. She had saved a Navy SEAL with 20 bullet wounds. She had stared death in the face and refused to blink. But as the shadow at the door moved closer, a cold realization struck her. Saving him had not ended the danger, it had only begun. Her heart pounded as the hum outside grew louder. The shadow grew clearer, a figure approaching with deliberate steps. Emily held her breath. She glanced at Mason. His gray eyes were half-lidded but still sharp, aware. He trusted her. He relied on her. And now she understood. Protecting him wasn't just about medicine anymore. It was about survival, and she had no choice but to face what was coming. The footsteps stopped. Silence fell. Emily's pulse raced. Every instinct screamed danger, but she would not step back. Someone powerful was watching, someone dangerous. And Mason Cole, her patient, her responsibility, the man who had survived 20 bullets, was at the center of it all. The hum stopped, the shadow paused. And then the elevator on the far end of the hall dinged. Emily's blood ran cold. The hum of the building had shifted into a low, dangerous vibration, like a predator moving through the walls. Emily Hayes pressed her hands against the edge of Mason Cole's bed, trying to steady herself. Her chest heaved. The night had already pushed her limits, but now, with shadowy figures moving outside the ICU and an inexplicable tension filling the room, she realized the danger had only just begun. The doors at the far end of the hall slid open with almost surgical precision. 8 men stepped into the ICU, moving with the confidence and lethality that only came from years of combat experience. Their uniforms were unmarked, tactical, almost ghost-like. Every motion had a purpose. Every step was deliberate. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had recognized the insignia at a glance, the Navy SEAL trident, subtly stitched on their chests. The taller, older SEAL moved first. Scarred across the face, his eyes like shards of ice, he scanned the room with a lethal calm before fixing his gaze on her. "You're the nurse who saved him." His voice was calm, almost too calm, like a predator acknowledging its prey. Emily nodded, hesitant. "Yes, I didn't know who he was at first. I just did what I could." The SEAL commander's eyes narrowed slightly. "Good, but what you did was more than just care. You kept him alive when all odds said he shouldn't have survived. That was extraordinary." Emily swallowed hard. She glanced at Mason. Even barely conscious, he was observing her, his gray eyes still sharp, still calculating. There was a fire there, a command of life and death that made her realize he was far more than a wounded patient. Who is he?" Emily asked. The commander exchanged a look with the SEAL behind him. Silence stretched like a rope about to snap. "Lieutenant Commander Mason Cole," he finally said, the name landing in the room like a bomb. Emily's heart skipped. She had heard the name whispered in news clips, military circles, rumors that seemed almost mythical. Mason Cole, the SEAL who survived impossible missions, who had disappeared for months and been presumed dead. The man lying in front of her, gasping and fragile, was a legend. One of the younger SEALs approached Mason, checking his vitals, scanning for hidden injuries or threats. Another moved to the perimeter, securing the room with a practiced sweep of tactical precision. Emily's pulse raced. The quiet hum she had felt earlier wasn't a malfunction. It was a warning. Danger was imminent. And the SEAL team was here because the threat had escalated beyond anyone's control. "You were alone with him last night," the commander said, addressing Emily directly. "And now you are a part of this. Understand that. You are not just a nurse anymore. You are a witness. And witnesses can be inconvenient." Emily felt her stomach twist. "Witness? What are you talking about? I just saved his life." The SEAL leader's eyes hardened. "Exactly. And because of that, you've seen too much. You've touched him. You've preserved him. That makes you valuable." Emily's throat went dry. She wanted to protest, to argue, but instinctively she realized she had no leverage here. These were men who had survived firefights she could only read about. Men who could move faster and strike harder than anyone she had ever known. Mason groaned again, blood streaking the pillow beneath his head. Emily leaned closer, brushing damp hair from his forehead. "Stay with me, Mason," she whispered. "You're safe now." He tried to speak, rasping through bloodied lips. "Emily, don't leave me, not yet." Emily felt a surge of determination. He wasn't asking for comfort. He was issuing an order. He had survived 20 bullets, and now he was demanding life itself from her. The SEAL commander gestured sharply, signaling his team to prepare for immediate action. "Someone is coming," he said, his voice low but carrying the weight of inevitability. "And they aren't just here to observe. They are here to kill." Emily's pulse spiked. "Kill who?" The commander shook his head. "We don't know, but they are fast, they are armed, and they are precise. And Mason's life is the reason we are here, the reason you are here." She swallowed hard. "So what do I do?" "Stay behind us," the commander said, his eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. "And don't touch anything. Your job right now is to survive, that's it." Emily's stomach churned. She had saved him once. She could do it again, but not alone, and not in the chaos that was about to erupt. Suddenly, the sound of boots echoed from the far end of the hall, heavy, deliberate. The SEALs froze instantly, weapons raised, every muscle tense. Emily pressed herself closer to Mason, trying to calm the rapid beating of her heart. The SEAL commander's voice was almost a whisper, but it carried command. "Positions, eyes on the doors, brace for contact." Emily's hands shook as she tightened her grip on Mason's arm. Every instinct screamed danger. She realized in a cold rush of understanding that the hospital was no longer a sanctuary. It had become a battlefield, and she had no armor, no training, no backup, just her determination and the knowledge that the man in front of her depended on her. From the shadows, a figure emerged, calm, controlled, dangerous. Emily's blood ran cold. The man didn't speak. He didn't hesitate. He simply moved with a predator's patience, his eyes locked on Mason Cole. The SEAL commander stepped forward, rifle raised. "Identify yourself," he demanded. The man's lips curled into a slow, deliberate smile. "I'm not here for you," he said quietly, each word chilling. "I'm here for him." Emily's stomach turned. The tension in the room snapped like a taut wire. She could see the SEALs tense, the younger ones shifting to cover angles, hands steady on rifles. Mason's eyes flickered, sharp and aware even in his weakened state. He understood the stakes in a way Emily could barely grasp. He was not just a patient. He was a target, a key, a piece in a larger game she couldn't yet comprehend. The figure moved closer, raising a small metallic device in his hand. Emily's stomach sank as she recognized it for what it was, a disruptor, capable of neutralizing cameras, sensors, and electronic systems. The hum she had felt earlier, it was the precursor to this. The SEAL commander barked an order, "Take cover." Emily dove behind a counter, heart pounding, as a blinding flash erupted from the device. The room was consumed in white light. Alarms blared, monitors flickered and died. For a moment, chaos reigned. When the light faded, the intruder was gone. The SEALs immediately secured the room, scanning every corner, checking every shadow. Emily crawled toward Mason, pressing her hands over his chest. "Stay with me. Don't you dare leave me," she whispered. The older SEAL commander studied the room, then looked at her. "You just survived a live extraction scenario, and you've held the line for him, but this is far from over." Emily's hands were trembling, sweat and blood mixing on her skin. I don't understand. Why? Who are they?" The commander's jaw tightened. "All in due time, Nurse Hayes. For now, know this. You saved a SEAL who carries secrets powerful enough to get people killed, and now you're part of it. There's no turning back." Emily swallowed hard. Her adrenaline buzzed through every nerve. She had saved a man who should have died 20 times over. And now the real battle was beginning, one she wasn't trained for, one she hadn't anticipated. Mason groaned, weak but alive. Emily brushed blood from his face. "I've got you. I'm not going anywhere," she whispered. And in the hallway outside, Emily could hear it, the faint, precise sound of someone coming back. calm, determined, dangerous. The storm was coming. The air in the ICU hung heavy with tension. Every beep, every hum, every creak of the hospital floorboard seemed amplified, a reminder that danger was no longer a distant threat. It was inside the building. Emily Hayes pressed herself against the counter, adrenaline coursing like wildfire through her veins. Her hands shook as she adjusted Mason Cole's IV, trying to keep him stable, trying to keep herself from freezing completely. Outside, footsteps echoed, but they weren't uniformed. They weren't orderly. They were chaotic, aggressive. Whoever was coming wasn't just moving, they were hunting. The SEAL team moved like shadows around her. Silent, lethal, every motion precise. Weapons were raised, eyes scanning, bodies ready to intercept the next wave of danger. Emily felt small, unarmed, yet she couldn't tear her gaze away from Mason. He was her responsibility now, fragile and defiant all at once, a man who had survived 20 bullet wounds and now clung to life like a weapon in human form. Suddenly, the ICU doors burst open. Two men in black tactical gear stormed in, faces hidden by masks, weapons aimed. The room erupted into controlled chaos. "Positions," barked the SEAL commander. Emily dove behind Mason's bed as bullets tore through the air. Alarms blared, sprinklers triggered, and lights flickered violently. The first intruder lunged toward Mason's bedside, but a SEAL was faster, slamming him to the ground with brutal efficiency. Emily's heart raced. Her stomach turned as she watched the violence unfold around her. This wasn't a hospital anymore. It was a battlefield. Her hands trembled as she reached for Mason, pressing his arm over a bleeding wound. "Stay with me, Mason," she whispered. "You're going to be fine, just stay with me." Mason groaned, pain etched into every line of his face. His eyes opened briefly, locking onto hers. "Emily, I can't fail." Her chest tightened. He wasn't just struggling with his injuries. He was struggling with the knowledge of what his survival meant. She had no idea yet what he carried, but she knew instinctively that his life was the key to something much larger than either of them. The SEAL commander moved like a predator. He neutralized intruder after intruder with precision, but it was clear. This was a coordinated strike. Someone knew exactly who Mason Cole was and exactly where he was. Emily felt a hand on her shoulder. She flinched but recognized the younger SEAL. "Stay behind us," he said quietly, almost a whisper. "Don't move unless we tell you. You're not trained for this." Her throat went dry, but she nodded, gripping Mason's hand as if holding him close could somehow shield him from the storm outside. The intruders fell back momentarily, regrouping, but the hum returned. That faint, electric vibration she had felt before was back, stronger this time. The lights flickered and then went out entirely, plunging the ICU into near darkness. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. "Lock the doors," the SEAL commander ordered. Another intruder tried to breach the perimeter, but the SEAL team moved faster, taking him down silently, efficiently. The rest retreated down the hall, disappearing into the shadows, but Emily knew it was only a temporary reprieve. Mason coughed violently, blood staining the sheets, and Emily pressed a clean cloth to his lips. "You're okay," she whispered, even as the chaos around them suggested otherwise. "You're going to make it. I won't let anything happen to you." He looked at her, eyes clouded with pain but filled with that defiant fire that had probably saved his life before she had even touched him. "Emily, they won't stop." "I know," she said, "but we fight, we survive, just like you always do." The SEAL commander moved toward her, voice low but urgent. "Hayes, we need every second we can get. They're coordinated, well-funded, and extremely dangerous. You've done your part, but now you need to trust us completely." Emily nodded, swallowing her fear. She had no choice. She had already stepped into a world she didn't understand, and now survival meant relying on men trained to kill and protect in equal measure. Outside the ICU, muffled explosions rattled the walls. Smoke began seeping through the vents. The hospital, normally a place of healing, was now a war zone. Nurses and doctors from nearby floors had been evacuated, leaving only Emily and the SEAL team in the thick of it. Suddenly, Mason's IV alarm beeped erratically. Emily rushed to check it, but her hands froze as she realized someone had tampered with it, a small, precise device attached to the line. "They're inside the room," Emily whispered, voice trembling. The commander spun, weapon raised. "Show yourself." No answer. Silence, thick and suffocating, filled the room, and then a single shot. The bullet whizzed past her ear, embedding itself in the wall. Emily ducked instinctively. "They're testing us," the commander muttered under his breath, "trying to see how we respond." Emily's mind raced. Every instinct screamed danger, but every part of her had to stay focused on Mason. She had saved him once, and she couldn't let him die now, not when the stakes had become so high. Mason groaned, weak but alive. "Emily, the device must be." She didn't wait. She scanned the IV line and carefully removed the tampered section, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. The SEALs moved to secure the room again, every corner checked, every shadow scanned. Emily realized then that she had never felt fear like this, not for herself, but for someone else. For the first time, she understood the weight of responsibility, the terror of being a witness in a world where life and death could change in a second. Outside, the intruders regrouped, their movements coordinated, relentless. The SEAL commander signaled to his team, "Hold positions, wait for my mark, do not engage until they make the mistake." Emily pressed herself against Mason, brushing blood from his forehead. "Stay with me," she whispered. "I won't let you go, not now, not ever." Mason's eyes fluttered open, brief clarity in the storm of pain and confusion. "Emily, thank you, but it's not over." She shook her head. "I know, but we fight together." And then the hum returned, louder, stronger, more menacing. Emily realized with a cold surge of dread that this was bigger than a hospital break-in. This was a coordinated attack with a purpose, and she was at the center of it now. The SEAL commander moved closer, scanning the room with piercing eyes. "Hayes, brace yourself. They're coming back, and next time it won't be a warning." Emily gritted her teeth, pressing a trembling hand over Mason's chest. Her mind raced with every scenario she had ever imagined, none of which prepared her for what was coming. And in that moment, she understood the terrifying truth. Saving Mason Cole had pulled her into a war she hadn't asked for, a war where survival wasn't guaranteed, and where every second counted. The door to the ICU shook violently. Heavy footsteps, intentional, purposeful, the storm had arrived. Emily's heart pounded. She gripped Mason's hand tighter. "Stay with me," she whispered. And outside, the world was burning. The ICU had become a cage of chaos. The fluorescent lights flickered intermittently, casting jagged shadows across the walls. Smoke trailed through the vents, curling like a sinister snake, and the acrid scent of burned wiring and antiseptic filled the room. Emily Hayes pressed herself against the edge of Mason Cole's bed, her knuckles white around his thin, bloodied wrist. She had saved him once. She had stabilized him. But the stakes had escalated beyond anything she had imagined. The SEALs had locked down the room, but the intruders weren't retreating. They were calculating, patient, persistent. "Hayes," the older SEAL commander said, voice low but commanding. "We need to know what he knows, and you need to help him survive long enough to tell us." Emily's pulse spiked. "Tell you what, I don't even know what's happening." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Exactly. And that's why we're here. Mason Cole is carrying information, classified, dangerous information. Whoever attacked him last night and again this morning is trying to retrieve it, or destroy him, or both." Emily swallowed hard. The weight of the revelation pressed on her chest. She hadn't just saved a man. She had saved a living key to secrets that could topple governments. Mason groaned, attempting to shift in his bed. His breathing was labored, but his eyes were sharp, aware, even in the midst of exhaustion. "Emily," he rasped. His lips trembled as blood dribbled past them. "Don't let them get it." Her stomach churned. "Get what?" He coughed violently, clutching the sheets. "Operation Horizon." Emily froze. She had heard the name whispered in security briefings months ago. A black operation so secret that even the CIA only referenced it obliquely. It involved covert intelligence, classified weapons systems, and missions so dangerous that only a handful of operatives had ever survived. The SEAL commander's jaw tightened. That explains the sophistication. That explains why they're coordinated. That explains everything. Emily's hands shook. "You mean they're not just trying to kill him, they're trying to get information he has?" "Exactly," the commander said grimly. "And every second we waste, they close in." Emily glanced at Mason. His face was pale, blood streaked across his forehead and sweat clung to his damp hair. But the fire in his eyes, defiant, determined, was unmistakable. Even wounded, he was aware of the stakes. Even wounded, he had a mission. She pressed her hand against his, feeling the fragile pulse beneath her fingertips. "You're going to make it," she whispered. "You have to." He tried to smile, but it was faint, fleeting, shadowed by pain. "Emily, if I don't survive, promise me." His words trailed off, fragmented by exhaustion. "I promise," she said, voice trembling. Outside the ICU, the faint sound of movement signaled the intruders were back. Emily's stomach tightened. The SEALs moved like ghosts, silent, lethal, every motion precise. The intruders were testing the perimeter, probing for weaknesses. Suddenly, a burst of gunfire erupted from the hallway. Emily ducked instinctively behind Mason's bed, her heart hammering in her chest. The SEALs returned fire, silencing the attackers, but the echoes of violence reverberated through the hospital. Mason groaned, pain racking his body. Emily pressed a cloth to his lips, her hands trembling. "You're still here, you're still alive. Stay with me," she said fiercely. The older SEAL commander stepped closer, scanning the room. "They're not just after him, they're after the device he carries. That metallic cylinder you noticed last night," he said, nodding toward the IV stand. "It's a cryptographic key. It holds the codes for Operation Horizon. If it falls into the wrong hands, catastrophic." Emily's eyes widened. "So that's what they were trying to get last night. That's why they were coordinated. That's why," her voice trailed off, horror dawning. "They don't care about collateral," the commander said grimly. "They're precise, they're efficient, and they will eliminate anyone in their way." Emily swallowed hard, her mind racing. She had saved Mason, yes, but now she was part of the equation. Her presence alone made her a target, and she had no training for this kind of battlefield, no weapons, no backup beyond the SEAL team. Mason coughed again, weak but alive. Emily listened, "Trust no one." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean, no one? I thought the SEALs." "They know too much," Mason rasped. "Even those supposed allies." Emily's stomach dropped. She had trusted them implicitly, but Mason's words planted a seed of doubt. Could anyone be trusted? She looked at the SEAL commander, who met her gaze with a mixture of authority and unease. Even he seemed tense, aware that this was no ordinary mission. Suddenly, the door to the ICU slammed open. A shadowy figure moved in, device in hand, disrupting the monitors, cutting off communications. The hum returned, low and insistent, filling the room with a mechanical menace. The SEALs reacted instantly, but the figure was fast, too fast. It released a small smoke device, filling the room with a thick haze. Emily's eyes burned, her lungs stung, and for a moment she couldn't see anything. "Stay down," barked the commander. Emily pressed herself over Mason, holding him close as the smoke swirled. Through the haze, she could hear the clatter of metal, the thud of bodies moving, the faint crackle of suppressed firearms. Panic clawed at her chest, but she forced herself to focus. She had to keep him alive. She had to survive. When the smoke cleared, one of the intruders was down, another pinned to the wall by a seal, and the rest had retreated into the shadows. Silence fell, broken only by Mason's labored breathing. Emily pressed a trembling hand over his chest. "You're okay. You're still here. Just hold on." Mason's gray eyes met hers, filled with pain but also fierce determination. "Emily, Operation Horizon can't fall." She nodded, tears streaking her face. "I know, I won't let it, I promise." The SEAL commander scanned the room, jaw tight. "They'll come back, and next time they'll be smarter, faster, more lethal. We need to move him, now." Emily's stomach twisted. Move him? But he's barely stable. He's been through 20 bullets, he's lost too much blood. "We don't have a choice," the commander said firmly. "Every second here increases the risk. We get him out, secure the device, and contain the threat." Emily glanced at Mason. He nodded slightly, too weak to speak but aware of the urgency. He trusted her, and she realized with a cold rush of understanding that her role wasn't just to save him medically anymore. She was part of the mission now. She was part of the fight. The SEALs prepared a secure extraction route. Emily helped Mason into a stretcher, stabilizing his fragile body as best she could. Her hands shook, but she forced herself to focus. Every movement counted. Every second was life or death. As they moved through the smoke-filled hallways, Emily realized the terrifying truth. Saving Mason Cole had pulled her into a war she hadn't asked for. A war where survival wasn't guaranteed, where every second could be her last, and where the line between ally and enemy was thinner than the edge of a knife. She glanced at Mason, weak but alive, and whispered fiercely, "We fight together, and we survive together. I won't let you go." He coughed, blood streaking the sheets, but his eyes, gray, sharp, defiant, met hers. "Emily, thank you." And in the shadows beyond the ICU, Emily could sense the next wave approaching. Calm, controlled, deadly, the storm was not over. It had only just begun. The hospital corridors were a maze of smoke, flickering lights, and tension. Emily Hayes gripped the handles of Mason Cole's stretcher, forcing her shaking legs to move in sync with the SEALs. Every heartbeat thudded in her chest like a war drum, each step a countdown to survival. The man she had saved, fragile, bleeding, yet defiant, lay before her, connected to life by IVs, tubes, and sheer willpower. The older SEAL commander led the way, eyes scanning every shadow, every doorway, every corner. "Stay low, stay quiet. No mistakes," he instructed, voice steady but carrying the weight of urgency. Emily nodded, glancing at Mason. He coughed violently, blood streaking the sheets, and she pressed a cloth to his lips. "We're almost there," she whispered. "Just hold on a little longer." Mason's gray eyes fluttered open. "Emily, they won't give up." "I know," she said, swallowing fear, "but neither will we." The extraction route had been cleared by the SEALs ahead of them, but Emily could feel the invisible tension around every corner. Whoever had attacked Mason before was not only skilled but patient, and patient killers were the most dangerous. As they turned a corner, the hum returned, the familiar, low vibration she had come to associate with danger. Her pulse quickened. "They're here," she whispered. The SEAL commander didn't hesitate. "Positions, cover the stretcher." From the shadows ahead, two intruders emerged, their movements fluid, synchronized, lethal. They moved with precision, weapons aimed, ready to strike. Emily's stomach twisted. "Oh God!" "Stay behind us," the commander barked. The SEALs reacted instantly, intercepting the attackers with calculated efficiency. Shots rang out, muffled but deadly. The intruders went down, but Emily felt her knees weaken at the sight of the violence. She glanced at Mason, who was pale but focused. "Emily, trust," he rasped. "I trust you," she said, voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. "But you have to hold on." They moved again, carefully, every step measured. The hospital, normally a place of healing, had become a war zone. Smoke trailed through the vents, alarms blared intermittently, and flickering lights cast the corridors in eerie shadows. Suddenly, the stretcher hit an obstacle. Debris from the earlier firefight blocked their path. Emily froze. "We can't go this way." The SEAL commander assessed quickly. "Alternate route, East Wing stairwell. Move." Emily helped maneuver Mason's stretcher, sweat and blood mixing on her hands. Her muscles screamed, but adrenaline pushed her forward. Each step was a delicate balance between speed and caution. One misstep could cost them everything. As they reached the stairwell, the hum grew louder, almost overwhelming. Emily's head spun. "What is that?" she asked, voice trembling. "Disruptor," the SEAL commander said tersely. "It scrambles electronics, communications, cameras, everything. Whoever set this up knows our moves. They're professionals." Emily's stomach dropped. "They've been tracking him this whole time." "Yes," the commander said grimly. "From the moment you stabilized him. That's why they attacked the ICU. They knew the key, literally and figuratively, was here." Emily's hands tightened around the stretcher. "We have to get him out alive." The SEALs moved with silent efficiency down the stairwell, Emily following as best she could. Mason groaned with every movement, but his grip on her hand was unwavering. "Emily, don't falter." "I won't," she whispered. Halfway down the stairs, a sudden sound froze them, a metallic click followed by a soft whir. Emily's pulse spiked. "Trap," the commander muttered. "Get down." A small explosive detonated nearby, sending debris flying. Emily hit the floor instinctively, covering Mason as dust and smoke filled the stairwell. The walls vibrated with the force of the blast, and for a terrifying moment, she thought they were done for. When the dust settled, the SEALs had secured the area. Emily pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering, trying to calm Mason's panicked breathing. "Emily, I can't," he rasped, pain twisting his face. "Yes, you can," she said firmly. "We're almost there, just a little further." The SEAL commander gave a quick assessment. "Clear, move." They continued down the stairwell, careful, deliberate. Emily's muscles screamed, her hands raw from gripping the stretcher. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound a potential threat. But the SEALs moved with precision, a protective wall around her and Mason. Finally, they reached the service elevator at the East Wing. The commander checked the controls. "It's functional. Get him inside." Emily helped guide Mason onto the elevator platform, adjusting the IVs and monitoring his vitals as best she could. "Hold on, Mason," she whispered. "We're getting out of here. I promise." Mason coughed violently, blood staining the sheets again. "Emily, you saved me. Once, don't stop." "I won't stop," she said, her voice trembling with determination. The elevator shuddered as it began its ascent. Emily's heart pounded, the hum returning faintly but persistently. Outside the elevator, footsteps echoed. The intruders were still tracking them. "Hold steady," the SEAL commander muttered, weapon raised. "Almost there." Emily pressed herself against Mason, her hand over his chest. "You're still here," she whispered. "Stay with me. I won't let go." Suddenly, the elevator jolted violently. Emily's stomach dropped. What's happening?" "External override," the commander said tersely. "They're trying to stop it." Emily's pulse raced. Mason groaned weakly, blood streaking his lips. "Emily, don't let them." "I won't," she said, tears streaking her face. "I won't let them take you." The SEALs quickly assessed the situation. One moved to override the elevator manually, while another scanned the stairwell for threats. Emily gritted her teeth, pressing herself over Mason, heart hammering with terror and resolve. Minutes felt like hours. The hum intensified, the shadows outside pressing closer, and Emily realized the terrifying truth. The intruders would not stop until Mason was theirs, or dead. Finally, the elevator shuddered back to life, rising steadily. Emily exhaled a shaky breath. They were moving, out of the hospital, out of the immediate danger zone. But the SEAL commander's voice cut through the tension. "We're not safe yet. Extraction point is 2 blocks away. You need to hold on." Emily nodded, gripping Mason's hand tighter. "We fight together. We survive together." Mason's gray eyes met hers, filled with pain but also defiance. "Emily, thank you." The elevator reached the ground floor. The SEALs moved quickly, ushering Emily and Mason into the back of an armored vehicle waiting outside. The night air hit them, thick with smoke and distant sirens. Emily's muscles ached, her hands were raw, but adrenaline pushed her forward. As the vehicle sped into the darkness, Emily pressed her hand over Mason's chest. "We're alive," she whispered. "You're alive, that's what matters." Mason coughed, a faint smile flickering across his bloodied face. "Emily, you saved more than my life." Emily shook her head, tears streaming. "No, we saved each other." And as the armored vehicle disappeared into the night, Emily realized the truth. Saving Mason Cole had pulled her into a war she had never asked for, a war that wasn't over, and a secret so dangerous it could change everything. The storm was far from finished. The armored vehicle sped through the dark streets, tires screeching slightly against wet asphalt, headlights cutting through the night like twin searchlights. Emily Hayes sat next to Mason Cole, hands pressed over his chest, her knuckles raw, her uniform soaked with sweat and blood. The SEALs surrounded them, alert, lethal, every motion precise, scanning the shadows as though danger could materialize from any corner. Mason's breathing was shallow, labored but steady. His gray eyes fluttered open briefly, locking onto Emily's. "Emily, you stayed." "Of course I stayed," she whispered, gripping his hand tightly. "You're alive, that's what matters. You're not going anywhere." He coughed violently, blood streaking his lips, but managed a faint, crooked smile. "Emily, you saved me, more than my life." Her throat tightened. "We saved each other," she said firmly. Outside, the city slept, or pretended to, but Emily knew better. The intruders were still out there, skilled, patient, and determined. Mason carried a secret so dangerous that they would stop at nothing to extract it. Every second of his survival was a threat to someone somewhere. The SEAL commander broke the tense silence. "We're approaching the rendezvous point. FBI and Joint Task Force will meet us there. Once we're in their hands, we'll have protection, and the device can be secured." Emily's pulse quickened. "The device, the cryptographic key." "Yes," the commander said tersely. "Operation Horizon. Mason's life and that key are now top priority for national security, and anyone who touches him before the extraction is at extreme risk. That includes you, Nurse Hayes." Emily's stomach dropped. "Me, but I'm just a nurse." "Not anymore," the commander said grimly. "You are a witness and a protector. That makes you a liability and a resource. Survival depends on you keeping calm and following orders." She nodded, swallowing her fear. She had been through more than any rookie nurse should ever face, but the truth was undeniable. She was part of this now. She had no choice but to continue. Minutes later, the vehicle turned into a secure, cordoned-off area illuminated by floodlights. Agents in FBI tactical gear waited, weapons raised but disciplined, faces taut with focus. Emily felt a wave of relief. Finally, professional backup. But the presence of even more armed personnel heightened the tension. This was no ordinary hospital extraction. The vehicle stopped. Mason groaned as the SEALs carefully lifted him onto a stretcher and moved toward the waiting agents. Emily followed closely, brushing sweat and blood from her hands, her heart hammering. Every second felt like a lifetime. One of the FBI agents approached Emily, clipboard in hand, eyes sharp. "You're Nurse Emily Hayes." "Yes," she said, voice tight but steady. "You were his primary caregiver during the initial incident." Yes," she stammered. I stabilized him, I saved him." The agent's eyes studied her carefully, then nodded. "Good. You'll need to give a full statement, but first, your priority is to stay alive and stay out of harm's way. Do you understand?" Emily swallowed hard. "I understand." The SEAL commander stepped aside, watching the transfer with cold precision. "He's yours now," he said, "and whatever you do, don't underestimate the people hunting him. They won't stop." Mason coughed, blood trickling from his lips, but his gaze met Emily's. "Emily, thank you." Tears blurred her vision. "No, thank you," she whispered, "for surviving, for trusting me." The agents wheeled Mason into the secure building, and Emily followed, her hand still gripping his arm, unwilling to let go. The sterile interior of the facility contrasted sharply with the chaos outside, yet tension lingered in every shadow. Inside, Mason was quickly assessed by a medical team, IVs adjusted, wounds rechecked, and monitors stabilized. Emily helped where she could, her training stretched to its limits, but her focus remained on keeping him conscious, aware, alive. One of the lead FBI agents pulled Emily aside. "We know what you've been through. You saved him against impossible odds, but there's more you need to understand." Emily nodded, heart pounding. "I'm listening." The agent's gaze was intense. "Mason Cole is a living key to Operation Horizon, a black operation involving national security, covert intelligence, and missions that the public will never know about. The people who attacked the hospital, they're not ordinary criminals. They're highly trained, deeply connected, and extremely dangerous. You have seen what they are capable of firsthand." Emily swallowed hard. "I know, I've seen it. I've held him while they tried to kill him." The agent's eyes softened slightly. "Good. That experience makes you invaluable, but it also makes you a target. We're going to secure Mason. We're going to secure the device. And you'll need to cooperate fully. Lives depend on it." Emily nodded, gripping Mason's hand through the thin barrier separating them from the agents. I understand." Hours passed in a blur of monitoring, questioning, and secure communications. Emily stayed by Mason's side, refusing to leave, refusing to let him feel alone. He was weak, battered, but alive. Every shallow breath he took was a testament to resilience, a reminder of the stakes they had survived together. Finally, the lead agent approached, speaking in low tones. "The FBI has secured the perimeter. The intruders have been traced and backup is en route. You're safe here. For now." Emily exhaled, a trembling breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. She looked at Mason, still pale but conscious, eyes meeting hers with gratitude and quiet strength. "You're okay," she whispered. "You're alive." He managed a faint smile. "Thanks to you, Emily." Her tears fell freely. "No, thanks to us together." The room was filled with quiet, taut relief. The hum of tension had diminished, replaced by a fragile sense of safety. But Emily knew better than to let herself relax completely. Operation Horizon was not over. The world outside this secure facility still held shadows, threats that would never fully disappear. For the first time since the gunfire, the explosions, the chaos of the hospital, Emily allowed herself a small smile. She had survived. Mason had survived. And for tonight, that was enough. As the FBI agents prepared to move Mason to a fully secure location, Emily stayed close, brushing the damp hair from his forehead, pressing her hand to his chest. "I'll be right here," she whispered. He coughed, then whispered weakly, "Emily, you saved me. I owe you my life." She shook her head. "No, you don't owe me anything. Just stay alive. That's all that matters." And outside, the night was calm, deceptively quiet, the city unaware of the storm that had passed within its streets. For Emily Hayes, the rookie nurse who had walked into a battle she never imagined, the world had changed forever. She had touched a legend, saved a man who should have died, and become part of a secret so dangerous that the FBI itself had been forced to intervene. The hum of tension had faded for now, but Emily knew the truth. Survival wasn't guaranteed and danger could return at any moment, but she had survived, and she had saved Mason Cole. That night in the secure facility, Emily realized something profound. Courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was acting despite it, and she had acted. She had saved a life against impossible odds, and in doing so, she had changed everything.